Hi, I'm Dr. Gemma, and welcome back to Cognitive, the Knitting Psychology podcast. Cheerfully and somewhat irregularly in business since 2008. Segments today may include what's on my hooks, needles, and spindles, a strategy, something I really like, put a lid on it, oh shoot, and blather. So sit back, put your feet up, pick up your knitting, crocheting, spinning, weaving, or dyeing, or any other yarny thing you're doing, and get ready to enjoy. Well, hello there, it's Dr. Gemma, and this is episode 157 of the Cognitive Podcast, and I'm recording here on Tuesday night, November 21st, 2023. I'm sitting in the study or studio or office of love. It's about 8:30 in the evening. I'm still tired from CFR 23. You can tell because the top picture in the show notes is my toes sticking up in my bathtub full of an Epsom salt bath. But it is an interesting picture in its own strange way because it's now that time of year, Black Friday, which of course has been going on since Halloween effectively. In a way, this is one of my favorite times of year because of all the legitimized shopping. I kick off the shopping at this time every year by restocking the basics that I live by. Yes, that's right. I went to Breezy Willow Farms and I basically bought $100 worth of their soaps. And then I went over to Blue Poppy on Etsy and I bought a ton of their organic and good for your pipes and not chemically dangerous and not toxic to the environment toilet bowl bombs. So I'm now pretty happy because I have just reloaded on those. And now, of course, that halcyon time of year where I try to get the best size for my son and my husband. And I use the sales to buy jeans, underwear, and socks. What a bunch of crazed romantics we are. At any rate, your comments are very welcome. You can comment on the blog at cognitivepodcast.blogspot.com, or you can go to our group on Ravelry. Yay! Also, I'm going to say if you feel the need to buy me a coffee, you can again, because I won't screw the funds up and mix them in accidentally with the CFR funds. The CFR funds will not probably start till at least July. And I'm going to talk about that a little more, but I don't think a whole lot more, I'm happy to say. In the warm thanks department, I want to thank Caroline and Steve for just a wonderful, funny, cheery Sunday this past week. Caroline is my not related by blood English cousin living over in Somersetshire. And she's married to the incredibly wonderful Steve. And Caroline out of the blue goes, well, I think we need a call. Actually, I believe it was her birthday. And we talked to each other on Instagram's messaging. I could not believe this. First of all, talk about a good sport. They're 8 hours ahead of us. So she says, can I call you at 11 a.m. your time? I said, no, but you can call me at noon. Anyway, I realized I couldn't wait. I got so excited. So I called her like a second before noon. And she and I just went on and on for hours. Keep in mind, this is starting at 8 o'clock at night for her. And then Steve got on, and he is they're both just so crazy nice. I can't even describe it. It was so much fun to talk to. And they've got this insanely beautiful family. And it was just so wonderful. I'm so grateful. I think we talked for almost 5 hours. I haven't done that for a long time. And of course, through the phone call, I'm sort of like going, Caroline, because in America, her name is spelled I-N-E at the end, and it could be pronounced either way. So fortunately, Steve helped me out on that one. So I didn't look quite the fool I thought I looked, but I probably did, but they're very forgiving people. Anyway, we had so much fun. The only person I ever do this with, this kind of thing, is my best friend from childhood. So I was just delighted to just stay in this call. I think we were sort of playing chicken at the end, like, who's going to pass out first from hunger or tiredness or whatever? But it was so much fun to talk to him. Like, I just didn't want to hang up. It was just so much fun. So Carolina and Steve, I cannot thank you enough. I just love that phone call, and I'm so complimented. Wow. So there we go. See, I didn't talk about CFR, but now I will. Briefly, CFR 10, which is the one in 2024 on September 28th. All the information is right there. There's a link in the show notes. It says here, and it's bright blue and underlined. That's the link, kids. And it'll take you to the information thread on Ravelry. Currently, what you need to know, I have reopened discussions with the hotel. So I'm kind of waiting to see what they say. I sent them my best propositions, and I think they're just basically talking among themselves now. But I really do want to point out, at this point, we got a lot of people together at that breakfast on Sunday morning, and we worked out this date. It is so hard to do the dates because everybody has a special event, and we're so far in advance, and yet there are people who know about weddings or various things they're doing. And at the same time, we've got all the holidays, and we've got all the competing yarn festivals, because here in Southern California, if you do a yarn festival like this or a fiber fest in late September, people are not working on their heavy-duty projects yet. They're doing like socks or cowls. And so when you bring in vendors and do that in late September, it's a little less awe-inspiring. Part of the trick is to do your festival in the autumn when it's cool, because you want people to have a reason to wear knitwear. And so that means the vendors are going to do better. But nonetheless, unfortunately, we're competing with all the other festivals and the holidays at that time of year. So September 28th looks like the date. And I know this is where it hurts, because then people say, I can't, that this family thing is happening, or my daughter's giving birth or something. I know at this point we have to start sacrificing the individual for the larger group things. All right. And I'm really sorry is what I'm saying. But yes, if the hotel goes along with us, it looks like September 28th. If the hotel does not go along with us, I'm just going to stick my head in a bucket. Meanwhile, what's on my hooks and needles? Well, I know what you're thinking. This is just getting a little sick. Because yes, I just finished my third Abyss sock yarn cowl. I'm calling it the third CFR 23 sock yarn cowl. This one really was practically an overnighter. Because what happened was I chained a lot more than I had before, and it still came out too short. Why? Because I chained very loosely, and this pattern I'm pulling it. I don't think everybody would, rather tightly. So anyway, this thing got to be about maybe 3-4 inches wide. That is from the bottom edge to the top edge. And I put it on, and it was just a little tight. Now, I know when I wash it and block it, it'll loosen. But I have now learned the longer you make these from top to bottom, the tighter they get around your neck, that they're crowded in a little more, and it takes up a little more yarn on your neck. So if it's tight when it's only about 3.5 inches from top to bottom, I do not want to find out what it's going to be like if I go on for 6 inches or so. So I decided to end this one because of the tightness. And I was rather discouraged until last night. It got very cold here. And I went to bed, and I could leave a space heater on in my room, but I decided I didn't want to. And I wore a lot of woolies to bed. I have a bulky sweater I will wear to bed in cooler weather. And I used to have a cowl, and I don't know what's become of it. And it's just a single loop cowl. And I didn't like it that much. It's a nice cowl, but it kept drooping. As I would get warmer at night, it would warm up and it would start to stretch. It just didn't fit the bill. Guess what fit just perfectly? I had it with me. I went to bed. I put it around my neck. Poof. Wonderful. So the third CFR 23 sock yarn cowl seems to have found a place this winter in the pouch at the side of my bed as the winter nights cowl. As I get older, my neck gets colder. So you know, I'm getting progressively colder. It's really tragic. My thyroid levels are great, for those of you who are asking that question in your head. I just get colder now when I sit still. So, you know, the cowls are great for me. I love these things. And I'm still wearing the haramaki at night. You know, this sort of elasticized wool blend belt. I don't want to call it loop. around my rib cage under my chest. So I must say I'm very cozy at night. And you can see me sitting there in one of my beloved Ann Budd vests, that I made last year, I think. Last year or the year before, I forget. And I'm sitting there with it's 2 years ago. I think that one was probably Vestuary of 22 or 21. Anyway, I'm sitting there with the beautiful cowl, and I'm just loving these. So you know what I'm going to tell you, right? That's right. I started number 4. I haven't put it in the show notes yet, but I will before you see them. Oh, the stash toss, you say. Well, I'm glad you're all sitting down. I think I told you now, I have gone through all the yarn that I got at CFR 23. And I think the one that sent me over the top was Gigi gave me 10 skeins. I think they're 137 yards each, something like that, of Jaeger. And it's a super fine merino in DK weight. I don't knit a lot with DK weight. This stuff will change my mind. I looked at it and I said, well, I don't know. Do I really want this? And then I looked in my stash at what I have in DK. And I said, yowza, I have a lot of DK. And then I went looking at patterns, and I just sort of lost my mind and said, oh, there's some fabulous color work patterns. And right now I think I've got this dark blue that Gigi gave me, and it's a solid, very handsome. And then I've got this, you may remember I picked up a gray DK weight, like 600 yards of it, at the last Santa Clarita Valley craft giveaway. Because it was sitting in somebody's car, and I just said, I can't leave that there. And I could talk also about the beautiful silvers that Danny Mac gave me. They're a little heavier than DK, but I'd be willing to fudge that. But then I found out I have this insanely beautiful pink. I did not mean to have this insanely beautiful pink, but it sort of dropped out of the sky on me when I was trying to color match for my llama love. And I got it and then realized it was a DK, and I didn't want a DK. So I have this deep blue. I've got this insanely beautiful pink. I was trying to match foxglove, and it's a little more red than that, but oh my gosh, it's so pretty. And then this gray. And then I've got the silvers from Danny. And then I have a ton of other stuff that I got a couple years ago from Jasmine that I kind of forgot about. Yeah, so I think I can say I have enough DK. So anyway, I'm giving excuses now. The stash toss, I'm glad you're sitting down, 38 in versus 80 out. Now, the rule of the stash toss for 2023 was I could not count a skein out unless I started the skein in 2023 and finished it in 2023, because I had to start somewhere on this project. I've realized that for 2024, I will continue the stash toss. Because let's face it, I still have a net there of 42 skeins out at this point. And I'm not counting all these scrap yarn skeins that I'm using up, which I probably should. And I was thinking about it and thinking, well, I'm going to start a few more things probably in 2023. And it seems unfair not to count their yarn somewhere in a stash toss if I finish things in 2024, but I start them in 2023. So after the end of 2023, when I do the stash toss for 2024, I will allow myself to count the skeins that I started in late 23 and finished in 24, because now I feel like that's more fair. So it is a little horrifying that I took in 38 skeins this year. Of the 38 skeins, to be fair to me, I think I probably bought about 20 of them. 20, somewhere between 20 and 25, and the others were gifted or dropped on me. I got no problem with that. But I have to tell you, I recommend this experiment. The stash toss, I know some people do it by counting yards that they knit in 2023 as opposed to skeins out. And I'm not using mini skeins in that count. It's got to be, 100 grams or more, I think, is pretty much the way I've been looking at it. Some of the skeins have been very big. The Lisa Souza skeins, that was 3 skeins in that whole sweater. Okay, so because they're 500 yards, So some of the skeins are very big, and some of the skeins have been, I think at one point I had some, I'm trying to think what it was, if it was Noro, and it was like 130 yards. So, I know it's not the most reasonable thing, but I had these big tubs, like 20-gallon tubs of yarn. And I'm also looking at, I compressed the tubs, and I think we got rid of 2 full tubs, which, believe me, my house is full of these tubs. I'm looking at 1, 2, 3 of them here, plus miscellaneous 4 boxes, and I've got like 6 more back in my bedroom suite. Believe me, I am not short of yarn. And off the cuff, I can think of, here I've got the Astraeus Gigi's blue. I've got a brown for a porthole sweater that I've never gotten to. I've got the gray for an owl mail sweater. I just have so many sweaters worth of yarns. It's kind of stupid right now to think of buying more sweater yarn. But, you know, it was Lisa Souza. What do you want me to say? I was afraid she'd retire on me or something. Let me tell you right now, I will be buying another sweater's worth from her this year when she comes back to CFR 10. Okay, so that's the stash toss. And I'm talking way too much about this, aren't I? So let me tell you, I also am progressing well on the blueberry waffle sock in the deep forest. And you can see a picture of it. On the first sock, I'm already past the waist yarn for the heel. And as I speak this, I'm probably about 1/3 of the way down the foot. I just love the blueberry waffle sock pattern. And I just am crazy in love with Cuticle yarns, this sock yarn. I love the color. I love the hand. This stuff is amazingly fluffy. It is a merino nylon blend, I believe, but it just has the most wonderful fluffy hand. And in that pattern, it is so floofy as socks go. Frankly, I love this whole combination. This has worked so well. So many thanks again to Cuticle Christina, because I have 2 more skeins of her mini skeins that were dropped off in my sock yarn trading bag. And then I found another skein that I had in my stash somewhere that is just so perfect with it. So they're all going to become socks, and you'll hear about that later on. But I am crazy in love with her yarn. Her yarn, I cannot recommend Cuticle yarns enough out of Australia. Fabulous, fabulous dye jobs, fabulous hand. Just so beautiful. You remember the Superstition sweater with all those cats? That nice Halloween project that I didn't try to do it for Halloween, but I certainly didn't finish it in time. I'm still straggling down the first sleeve because I'm just doing everything else. And that's pretty much what I would tell you about the Pennsylvania Dutch embroidery. By the way, I am looking now. I'm planning to this weekend. This weekend will be Thanksgiving, so you're not going to hear much about Thanksgiving in this one. But I am starting to consider that I want to spend this weekend, my 4-day weekend for the holiday, roaming through my stash and assembling my Romule collection. And I'm looking at those 2 silvers from Danny Mac and drooling, thinking they're probably going to end up in the Romule sweater. It's important to me, in Romule, the time between Christmas and New Year's, I want to just start a sweater. But it's important to me that it be from the leftovers, that it seems like a really respectful way to finish the year by using up your leftovers. Sure, didn't I just tell you I have a lot of sweaters worth of yarn? Yes, I do. But there is something magical about just making a sweater happen from your scraps. And it's sort of this act of gratitude, I think, for me. I can't help myself. You know, it's that Pennsylvania German heritage. It's hard for me to waste. So I'm really, really looking forward to that. And no doubt by the time I finish it, I will have like 25 more scrap towels to go with it. Dizzy Blondes, I haven't been spinning this week. I have that fabulous alpaca mix fluff from Danny. And I'm looking at my heap of cat fur, and I'm thinking about just brushing out some of it and just threading it in there with it. The other thing I'm looking at is I've got a full drop spindle full of the spun cat fur, and that may get plied in with the silver, because I have to tell you they'd be a fantastic match together. So that's really, really exciting, but I think that's looking at Romule when I'm going to sit down and really spin. And that's because I have some plans for Romule, and it includes making candles, spinning, baking, finishing sweaters, doing the Romule sweater. So it is not surprising that my strategy this week is what I've been doing this week, or what I did last weekend, and that is declaring rest. I'm the cognitive therapist. I want you all to have strategies. I want you to fill your free time. I don't want you to be bored. Bored people get depressed or crazy, right? But look, even I am going to say, sometimes you have to just stop. And when you declare rest, it's really not something I think of in terms of now I'm going to lie in bed for days on end. I have done that, not for days on end, but I have had like weekends when I was younger where I would just say, woof, I'm done and lie down. I actually don't like to do that anymore, which sounds a little wackadoodle, but there you go. That was a clinical term, wackadoodle. Okay. When I say declare rest, what I mean is there are things I must do on a routine, and I enjoy those things. I like getting up and running a bath for myself in the morning. That's been my newest thing since the beginning of the summer. Instead of showering, I like bathing. I like my morning routine. I like brushing my teeth and wailing away with the water pick on them. I like brushing out my hair 100 strokes and, putting it back and enjoying its thickness because it's doing great here at 63. Heaven knows why. I really enjoy feeding the dogs and rotating the dogs inside and outside. I like turning on my computers. I like sorting out the kitchen. I enjoy my morning. I want to do those things, but I want to do them in an unhurried way. I like making that first cup of coffee or tea and just sort of sorting through that. And I like doing things like cutting out skirts. I have a pile of skirt fabric in here right now, and I think I have at least 3 more skirts in there. And I'd like to get those done because also in Romule, I'd like to take all my scrap fabric and cut it into 2.5-inch stripes and then figure out what the quilts will be that develop from that. I love all that stuff. That is restful. Going through my daily routine, including stretching for 5 minutes, meditating for a few minutes, I find that incredibly restful. Putting a few rows on the sock, putting a few rows on the cowl. And if I get good at it, finishing these poor sleeves on the Superstition sweater. I love my routine, and that is a form of rest for me, as long as nobody's leaning down my neck and hurrying me through it. When I rest, there are restful events like baking or knitting or sewing or watching something on Netflix. When I say I'm declaring rest, I really mean that there are a lot of restful activities. And so when I talk about this, I'm going to say, everybody, every now and then, you must declare rest. After CFR, I was wiped. And I spent that first Monday and Tuesday afterwards. I don't know what I said to my patients. They're all still breathing, so okay, I did okay with that. But I was so tired. I didn't see it coming. Sunday afternoon, by the time I got home, I was bleary-eyed and exhausted. And I'm the one who stays up till midnight every night. I've been going to bed at 10 p.m. every night since. I've been so tired. So, yes, I am declaring rest. And so I thought it was very funny. I was lying in my beloved twice-a-week Epsom salt bath last weekend, and I just felt marvelous. I think it was Sunday morning. And I had my phone there by the tub, so I just took a picture of my feet sticking out of the Epsom salt bath because I realized, yes, last weekend, I can't even tell you, outside of having this insanely wonderful talk with Caroline and Steve, I honestly can't even tell you what I did all weekend. I was so tired. I just was crawling around the farm doing needful things and occasionally crocheting. And if I did anything else other than that, you'll probably hear it in the blather, but I've forgotten it at this part of the podcast. So I am going to say there is a strategy where you declare rest, where you simply say, and now I must stop. Now, when you declare rest, though, I do want you to hear what I was saying, that declaring rest can mean doing the things that comfort you. It doesn't mean just sitting absolutely still. And I think that's important because I think one of the things I've learned over time is that my routines can be very restful. They are very important to me. And so if I'm going to declare rest, I'm not declaring absolute stillness. So you might think about, what does that mean to me to rest? And it sounds really crazy. There's a lot of things I want to get done when I rest. As you can tell when I talk about Romule, I want to make candles. I want to knit a sweater. I want to break down all this fabric into stripes for quilting. I want to set myself up for next year's needful things and happy work. I want to be looking at quilts next year. I have a lot of things I'm thinking about. And I also want to keep doing the stash toss. I have a bunch of sweaters I want to make. I have things I want to empty out. And I'm also thinking about, I'm looking at my clothes and thinking, I need to go through my closets. I need to go through my sweater chest. I've got a few sweaters that I just want to move along to the local family shelter. And I have a few scarves and such that need to go as well. So when I'm declaring rest, sometimes I'm declaring that I'm going to do the things that satisfy my soul. My donations, my cooking, my sewing, my knitting, but my routine. But I will tell you that periodically you must declare rest. You must say, I'm going to stop the things that I do to earn money or whatever. I'm going to sit still and rest. It seems funny to me here at 63 when I think, how many years away am I from retirement? And I'm not really sure, to be honest. But it's very strange to be sitting here at this age and thinking, I'm declaring rest. I'm still that busy. I'm not retired yet. I have friends who are now. That's a very weird feeling. So, okay. But I think it is important to know yourself and to understand what you find relaxing and restful. Strangely, I will tell you, and maybe this is generational, I do not find watching television or films restful. I can do it in short bursts, but I actually find it too activating because all the movement on the screen kind of annoys me. I do not find video games or being on the computer restful. And don't hear that as judgmental. If you do, that's great. Why do I not? Because I do it for a living. I stare at a screen for 6 hours a day as part of my career. So it isn't restful for me to stare at a screen. It's far more restful for me to listen to audiobooks. Yeah, it's true. I've been stocking up this week. I want to listen to a whole bunch of them over Romeo. So there we are. So the strategy for this week is you need to investigate your rest, what it takes for you to rest, whether it's sitting still in your bed, I don't know, video gaming till your nose bleeds. Video gaming with friends, though, is a very different experience from the video gaming I do. I don't do multiplayer games, and I haven't had friends around working on a game with me in many years now. So whatever you find rest, that's great. Find your rest. I would also tell you, switch between restful activities, that actually anything you do too much of can go stale, but figure out your rest. And this is the time of year, start making room for that. And if your restfulness is getting together with your family to celebrate the holidays, I think that's about as healthy as it gets. Fluffy books, nope. But I did restart watching Upstart Crow on BritBox. Upstart Crow ran from, it ended right at the time of the quarantine, I think. And I think they had 3 seasons and a couple Christmas specials. Upstart Crow is just so funny. It's written by Ben Elton, who worked with Rowan Atkinson on Blackadder. He's a very, very funny author. And Upstart Crow is about William Shakespeare. And it's just a series of hilarious one-liners, very reminiscent of Blackadder. The actors in it, it's not Blackadder. In Blackadder, Rowan Atkinson, Hugh Laurie, Miranda Richardson, just this unbelievably stellar cast. And they all had so much presence and power. Upstart Crow, lesser known people if you're me, if you're an American. The Brits probably know them much better than I do. And so you don't have sort of the power in the cast, but it works very well. I didn't think I would like it. I watched it, I believe, during the quarantine. And I thought, yes, okay, British, one-liners, snarky, very funny. And I watched, I think, 2 seasons of it, which was all we had on BritBox. Well, I went back, and now all of it's there. And again, Steve and Caroline were saying, you've got to go watch Upstart Crow. And I thought I did, but I don't remember it. I don't know why I didn't think it was so funny. It's hilarious. It's absolutely hilarious. And they go for every joke they should go for. I say this as a Shakespeare scholar. They go for the stage-struck young woman who's outstandingly attractive, who wants to be on the stage, but women are illegal, and she's pestering everybody for this. They go for Richard Green, who's the master of the revels and a rival of Shakespeare's, just wiping his feet all over Shakespeare as often as he can. They go for the elitism of the Oxbridge community. Oh my God, the first episode with the posh boy, I was just dying. And of course, it's all relating back to Shakespeare writing his plays. In the first episode, he's trying to write Romeo and Juliet. Oh Lord, it's funny. And it's just everything you want it to be. It's kind of reminiscent of Shakespeare in Love, of all things, where it's just one in-joke after another if you read Shakespeare, but you don't have to read Shakespeare to just laugh. Shakespeare keeps going back and forth between Stratford and London. And the joke there is he complains about the traffic, and he's making all these jokes that the Brits make about Britrail, the railroad system, and occasionally the highway system. And I didn't get that the first time around. I kept thinking, what does he keep talking about how lousy his trips are? And of course, he's got a servant named Bottom, which in itself is hysterical, but of course it's an in-joke for Midsummer Night's Dream. Every joke you want to be there is there, including when he goes home to Stratford, his really annoying teenage daughter, who is just walking around a perpetually tiff mood. She's just always angry, always grouchy, always hormonal. And he's making jokes about it in Romeo and Juliet. It is hilarious. So I sat and watched 2 episodes, and frankly, I'm going back for more tonight after I record this. And this is Upstart Crow on BritBox, which is, of course, what Green calls Shakespeare. Real life Green calls Shakespeare. And it's marvelous, and it's worth watching. Something I really like. Oh, yeah. This thing was a big hit on the last Amazon Prime Day. It's the Anker Power Bank for iPhones. And what is great about this, there's probably an Android version. There seem to be several, in fact. But here's what it does that's great. It stores a lot of energy, and there's no cable. You just have the plug. It plugs directly into the bottom of your iPhone. You can walk around holding your phone with this thing attached to the bottom without a cable. I'm assuming there's Android versions. I skimmed around. I seemed to find them, but I have to admit I wasn't looking that hard. I saw this on Prime Day. I put it on my wish list, said I'm going to go back for that. I decided before CFR that that was what I needed because I needed my phone to be live all day. Strange but true, I am still a psychologist. I still have to take patient calls if there is an emergency, so I do need a live phone on me. It was amazing. The thing kept my phone charged happily all day. I recharged it at night, recharged the phone as well. I'm really, really fond of this. It's a great little device. How big is it? I'm looking at mine now, I believe. Wow. Well, it fits very nicely in that beautiful little crocheted bag that Carmen from the OC Fiberistas gave me at CFR. I've got to say, it fits very handily into that. It is the width of my iPhone, and it is probably about 1 inch thick, and it is probably about 1 to 1.5 inch long, hanging off the bottom. It's a great, great tool. So this is the Anker Power Bank for the iPhone. The link is there under the words for iPhone. And I believe I'm going to add a picture of this to the show notes as well. Put a lid on it. 2 goodies for you. First, oh baby, I had a sample from Plum Deluxe of the Peaches and Cream Oolong Tea. I also found today that I have a little bag of it too, that I had bought a bag when they had a sale just to try it out. Oh yes. Yes, 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 yes. Oh, yes. Now, y'all know I like oolong. And to me, it's a little strange because in this one, they mix black tea with the oolong. I can't imagine why. Black tea is the first ingredient, so there's more black tea in it than oolong. I really can't imagine why, because I love this sort of dainty flavor that oolong tea has. Who cares? It's fantastic. The scent of this thing, before you put it in the hot water, is great. The scent of the tea is fabulous after you've brewed the tea. The taste is wonderful, and the peaches and cream come through with that little, for lack of a better name, jasmine flavor that you get out of a true oolong. You can see the ingredients, right? It's very simple. Along with the black tea and the oolong tea, there's apple pieces, apricot pieces, calendula, and then peach vanilla essence, which I would assume they took vanilla essence and they infused it with peach, would be my guess there. Whatever it is, this stuff is fantastic. I can't recommend it enough. But More, you say? Oh, yes. So my husband got some oral surgery done, and his mouth is a little sensitive. And we had salmon from our wild-caught salmon box subscription. And I really wanted to use it up because we're trying to empty the freezer a bit because we have the salmon subscription and the healthy meat subscription coming in a few days to a week. So I'm trying to eat my way through the freezer here. Also, did I mention we have this giant turkey, which I probably will talk about. Anyway, so I wanted to use up some salmon, and his mouth was sore. So I said, it's time to learn to make salmon mousse or some kind of pate. So I went all over the place looking at recipes and using the stuff I had. You can see my recipe there. We had 3 salmon steaks that still had skin on them. So I wanted to use them up. And they were, I think they were would have been 18 ounces, so a little over a pound. And using the recipes and merging recipes with what I had, I used a standard brick in the U.S. of cream cheese, 8 ounces, softened up. I used a very generous tablespoon of lemon juice. You have to get some kind of sourness into this, just a little bit to cut back on the flavor of the salmon a little bit. And then everything uses a sort of smoke flavor, including liquid smoke, which I think is just the most disgusting stuff. I know it tastes good, but I just can't bear to have it in the house. So, of course, having lived in the UK, I substituted a half teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce. And also, they said use capers, don't use capers, blah, blah, blah. Thing is, if you put capers into a pate, you kind of lose them a bit. And one recipe very cleverly said, no, but use a teaspoon of juice from bottled capers. Well, you know me. I used a teaspoon of juice, and I said, what the heck? And threw in a teaspoon of capers. And then I say 2 sticks butter, and I'm going to talk about what I did with 2 sticks of butter. That did not all get blended into the pate, let me tell you. Also, if you're going to do this, you're going to want an Instant Pot. Not necessarily, but I used an Instant Pot or a frying pan to prep the salmon before you go any further. And a lot of recipes for this use a smoked salmon so you don't have to cook it. But I'm into cooking it. All right. So the other thing you're going to want is a very strong food processor or blender. I used a Vitamix. So in the Instant Pot, I put it on saute on high, and then I sauteed all the salmon in the bottom. And to do this, the minute the saute got hot, I put an entire stick of butter in there. I wanted a lot of liquid in there. Okay, and I sauteed both sides of the salmon, 3 minutes per side. I really wanted to cook through this hardcore in the very beginning. I wanted the salmon basically seared. So I sauteed the salmon side number 1, 3 minutes, side number 2, 3 minutes, using the entire stick of butter. Why, you may ask me? I wanted it to cook in the Instant Pot for just, I think I used it on 5 minutes. And it has to be in liquid, okay? So I had to have liquid, and I didn't want to add water. I didn't want watery stuff here. I wanted a good, strong broth here. So that's why there's so much butter in it. So after I finished the saute on the second side, I scraped off any skin that was left, put it to the side, and then I just simply put the Instant Pot lid on the top of it, and I cooked it 5 minutes manual high because I really wanted to make sure the stuff was cooked through. Okay, when I was finished with that, I skimmed out the bits of skin, and then I put the salmon, and I melted the second stick of butter, and I put some of the pot juices without the skin, and then I put all the other ingredients into my very strong Vitamix blender. And I blended it till it was mousse, till it was all blended. Wow, is this stuff good? Let me tell you. Now, meanwhile, I did give the skin to the dogs, and they were very happy about that. I have a Newfoundland. They're going to eat seafood, take my word for it. So this mousse goes on bread crisps, potato chips, breadsticks, fresh veggie sticks, cucumber slices, zucchini slices, or you can just spoon it out if you're in a keto frenzy like I was. If you let this sit for a day, it turns into an insanely good cream cheese spread on a toasted bagel or bread. It's basically like lox and cream cheese already pre-mixed. Why does it do this? Well, it hardens over time because the backbone of this is 8 ounces of cream cheese. This stuff is amazing. And so I give it to you as my holiday gift. Okay, on to the blather. Well, Thanksgiving. I don't know if I told you this, but after I ordered the really wonderful organic meats box from wildpastures.com, which we're very happy with, they sent me an email and said, "Do you want an organic turkey?" And I said, "Wow, I'd love that." Then I saw the price and said, "How big is this turkey?" Well, they said 15 to 18 pounds. And I said, "Oh no." But then I thought, why not? I mean, we could freeze leftovers. We have dogs. I could make turkey mousse. Why not? Why am I not doing this? So anyway, I called them and said, we have 3 people, 15 to 18 pounds. They said, "We love you. We'll give you a small one." So it was 15 pounds, 8 ounces. Now, meanwhile, I said, well, that's going to be a mighty big turkey. But, they'll send it Thanksgiving week. So it'll be partly, thawed by the time it gets here. And then we'll do the rest of the thawing. No. It came weeks ago. It must have come right about Halloween. So this behemoth turkey arrives. 15 pounds, 8 ounces. This thing is like the size of my 17-year-old son. Thought, oh no. My husband surprised me. He was thrilled that I'd handled the turkey issue. Go figure. So he heroically cleaned out the freezer, moved everything aside, and got that turkey in the freezer. I was so proud of him. With all the fresh salmon and meat from our 2 subscription services. So there's this giant thing in my freezer. So anyway, last weekend, we had to move the giant thing into the fridge. Son of a gun, he and my son cleaned out the whole fridge and got it in there. It's beautiful. It's thawing. It's now Tuesday. It's been thawing in there for 4 days. And I think we're probably going to move it out tomorrow sometime to see how thawed it is and just let it thaw in the cool kitchen for the rest of its time. But the behemoth turkey. So bit by bit, we've been gathering our goodies. We have a ton of things. Again, the True Love went off and did this massive shopping trip and bought everything we could need. And he laid his plans. Now I'm more the dessert and cleanup category. So I've been cooking a little bit at a time. So I've already made us a spice cake, a pumpkin spice earthquake cake with cream cheese frosting, which we've all been eating, but it will contribute. And today I baked keto bread. And in the meantime, we ordered from Fox Hill Farms out in Vermont, we ordered croutons, keto croutons and crisps. And they screwed up the order, so they only sent us croutons, but they sent us a lot. They'll make great stuffing that I can eat. So I'm quite looking forward to that. So we are sort of gathering all our stuff together and slowly working on our Thanksgiving. And you can see a picture of all the croutons from their box lying there on my kitchen counter. Pup date, Queenie is finally in the house. That we have been saying we have to practice getting her in. Well, we're having wild windstorms here. Queenie, of course, is our little rough collie or Scots collie, whatever you want to call her. And she's such a wonderful person. And after that vet visit, I began to realize she's such a people lover. It's cruel to have her out in the yard all the time. So this morning I came out between patients. There was my son with Queenie, and he was just sitting with her while she acclimated to being in the house without being crazy. And so she and Captain were in the house. You can see they're both in that picture. Queenie's standing in the kitchen, and Captain is basically photobombing. I didn't know she was in the picture. But they're very jealous of my attentions. And so they're both in the house. And the beloved son kept her in for an hour or so. And we just let her not be excited. We just ignored her or just petted her. And she didn't know what to do. Every time I came out of my room, my office, she would escort me very regally. And it really was heartwarming because it reminded me so much of Eleanor. Captain will just lie and watch me come and go. Captain takes a central pose by lying on one of the big sofas or lounges in our living room, or our lounge, if you're British. And Captain likes to lie there and watch us go by and keep an eye on us. Queenie wants to escort you. She wants to follow you everywhere. Boy, is that nice. So there you can see our 2 girl dogs doing their house practice. You can also see the hub state My son is home for the week. He's sitting there emoting, shall we say. He is 17. He's really great, but every now and then he just has emotions. So he's sitting there having emotions in that picture. I think basically it was we're all kind of locked in the house for a week together. I think we're all kind of working on that. No work on projects at all. No Project G, Project T, or Project Cookbook, but the mousse recipe is about to go into the cookbook as I say this. I'm looking around for a blank index card to put it into the cooking file, because that's one of the deals. Every time I put a recipe here, it goes into the cooking file. And the Green Fingers report, oh, the windstorm. I'm watching all my plants, seeing if they're staying upright. One Russian sage got dragged out of the ground by the wind, by its roots, and it's flowering. The roots are still partly in the ground. So I'm kind of looking at that going, what do I do? Another Russian sage has taken off. It's really happy and it likes what it's doing. All the other stuff, meh. Fortunately, the rosemary bush, it's in the wind and it's holding up. It looks fine. The hyssop by the house is still going insanely happy over there. So, some of our stuff is doing well, but the garden is pretty much wintering right now. On the calendar, Thanksgiving. It's coming. By the time you hear this, it will be past, in fact. But still, since I'm recording this on the 21st, Thanksgiving is the 23rd here, and I have the 23rd to the 26th off. And as you can tell, I'm sort of winterizing. I'm using Thanksgiving to harden up my plans for the other events on my calendar. So that leads me to say the Evolution of Psychotherapy Conference. I will be in Anaheim. I have a hotel room the 14th through the 17th, because mostly I can do that for free. And also I have patients, I believe, the morning of the 14th. I actually think I'm going to catch an early morning train into Anaheim and walk over to the hotel and see 3 patients from the hotel room. But then I'm just going to go do sessions. I'm looking at the conference schedule and it's very, very tasty. So that's December 14th through the 17th. I will be there, even though the conference starts on the 12th. And I will be doing sessions at home because I can. Romuald, December 23rd through January 1st. By the way, if you're going to be in Anaheim, 14th through the 17th, give me a holler. We'll go out for coffee or knitting or something. Romuald, December 23rd through January 1st. You can hear I'm already laying down all the stuff. If I'm really, really lucky, I'm going to lure Loretta over Romuald and see if I can get her in there and get her helping with some of this junk. Little does she know. Yarnopoly and the Second Saturday Stitchers, they both tend to meet up on the second Saturday of each month here in the Santa Clarita Valley. And last and never least, Cognitive Fiber Retreat 10. So far, we're looking at the Courtyard by Marriott in Valencia, the same place. This is currently unconfirmed. We're looking at the date of September 28th, 2024. Again, if we don't get our venue, I'm not sure about that date. Otherwise, that date is pretty firm. Minerva gets the last word. And as you can see, I started this podcast off with my feet in a bathtub where I'm soaking and resting. And there is Minerva resting on my unmade bed. You can see my gastric distress pillow there, that big firm foam triangle in the background. But there's Minerva on the unmade bed, and she is celebrating our getting back to normal. That is our Saturday morning routine. We strip the beds and wash the sheets before we do anything else. So there is Minerva firmly holding down the stripped bed and demanding that we go back to normal. So here we are back to normal before the Thanksgiving holiday this week. Below all that, you can see a huge list of my favorite resources, ending with good old Cutiful Yarns on Etsy in Australia, but you can get here too. And these are all the people who helped us with CFR 2023, and I could not feel more loving and warm towards them. Just amazing, amazing, amazing people. So on that happy note, I don't even have to warn you about COVID. I can just say, get your shots, don't get your shots. I don't care till next September. No, I do. Please remember, we are a community, which means when we help others, we are helping ourselves. Just like when we help ourselves, we're helping others. And please remember, everybody, stay safe, take care of each other, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye. So we have come to the end of another episode of Cognitive. Please do not use this podcast to diagnose yourself. If you think you are having a mental health problem, please contact a licensed mental health professional. Show notes for these episodes can be found at cognitivepodcast, all one word, .blogspot.com. Episodes can be found at iTunes under the name Cognitive Podcast, but also can be found posted next to the show notes on the Blogspot page. Thank you so much for listening. Everybody, stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.